This is from the intro, which is Ghostbusters Oz. First, the audience hears a few bars from the Wizard of Oz. The very, very high voiced Glinda's come out, wherever you are, and meet the young lady who fell from a star. She fell from the sky, she fell very far. And Vancouver, she says, is the name of the star. The West End, she says, is the name of the star. She brings you good news, or haven't you heard? When she fell out of Benzo's, a miracle occurred. Then the sound of a record being gouged and the Ghostbusters theme song comes on with the lines, if you're seeing things running through your head, who you gonna call? Ghostbusters. An invisible man sleeping in your bed? Ow, who you gonna call? Ghostbusters. How did I survive a tornado of a drug withdrawal, which whirled me away to Benzo, Oz, where I discovered an invisible man sleeping in my bed? It was quite simple. One day I decided to quit clonazepam, a benzodiazepine. That's sleeping pills or anti-anxiety medication for the innocent, the eager, and the doomed. Slowly but surely, the winds rose higher and higher and began swirling about me. I knew things were getting weird when I had my first hallucination. I placed a small sign on an easel, meeting my Glinda, the goddess Aphrodite. Benzos hadn't worked on my sleep problems in a decade, but I got slightly stoned at night, so I didn't care. I still had insomnia. I then suffered from 5 incurable diseases, fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue syndrome being the worst and most disabling. They all kept me mostly housebound and often bedridden, unable to sit up frequently, let alone stand, due to my dangerously low blood pressure, and weak as the proverbial kitten. In fact, the average kitten could have cleaned the floor with me. My face was the size of a pumpkin some days due to a circulatory disorder, my ankles ditto, and my doctor freaked out if she saw the tiniest cut on my toe and demanded I take antibiotics immediately. It didn't look like venous insufficiency disease was going to end well, and I was terrified of ending up in a wheelchair missing some toes. I finally realized I was addicted to clonazepam. Though I'd lost all my dreams, that's night dreams as well as dreams of my life ever changing, I could take charge and change this one thing for a little girl now grown, whose mother was an alcoholic and whose father was also a pillhead and an ex-boyfriend of mine. I had lost her for 10 long years. When I got her back in my life, I wanted that kid to have one adult in her life that wasn't an addict. Love may have begun my journey, but discovering an article that said people who took benzos regularly were twice as likely to get dementia and 4 times as likely to die continued it. When my former fairy goddaughter saw me again, she seemed thrilled, but confided later, "You looked like it hurt to breathe." It did. The fibroplane was so bad all over my body that I used to wish I could sleep standing on my head because it was the only place that didn't hurt. Pain pills did nothing, and in the long run caused 42% more pain. Finally, I stopped 3 other useless medications and began tapering off the antidepressant prescribed for the pain and insomnia of fibro. I didn't actually have depression. I began cutting down the clonazepam fragment by tiny fragment, as slowly as if they were dynamite. I'd at least read a little. My insomnia, already bad, went postal. I'd fall asleep 100 times a night, only to jerk awake like somebody had poked me with a cattle prod. You lose 10 minutes every time you awaken, so I figured my sleep was in the minus. One night I was sitting in my living room, cross-eyed with fatigue, when I heard the voice of the goddess Aphrodite, my Glinda. A skeptical pagan, I had an altar to Aphrodite, so when she began to speak, I was puzzled, but not aghast. The voice was warm, loving, and oddly sexy. "You can do it," she'd say. "I know it's tough right now, but it'll get better. You're strong. I know you can make it." She was sort of like a supernatural sponsor. As I was doing this alone, the support was welcome. Family thought I should keep taking the drugs as a doctor had prescribed them. I called Narcotics Anonymous, and no one called me back. It seemed fated. I had to face this alone. But Aphrodite spoke with me nightly before bed, which helped me face the horrific insomnia and later the constant nightmares. I'd crawl through the day miserable, unsure if I could make it through another hellish night. then I'd hear that low, comforting voice. I have faith in you, my dear. You'll get through this. Hang in there just one more night. I finally asked her one evening, curious, why are you, who is known as the goddess of sex and love, behaving like the most loving mother in the world to me? She replied, the winners write the histories, as you know. When you're well, you will write the truth about me. I replied disconsolately, but Aphrodite, I can't write at all. The cognitive impairment is too severe. It's like driving into a cement wall where there used to be a tunnel. That ability is gone. She replied, you will, my daughter, you will. I had formerly made my living as a freelance writer before the fibro relapse, and I'd been an actor and stand-up comic with zero training in writing. Then the recession hit, 100 magazines across Canada died in 1 year, and I developed insomnia. A lazy-ass shrink pushed benzos on me, and the health problems that increased and increased were attributed to the diseases. My goddess was always warm and loving to me, but she too had a temper. She was originally a war goddess as well, and that came out occasionally. When later I was going to NA and trying to be less angry and more forgiving, I wondered if I should forgive a friend. Though I was still upset by something he'd said, she replied, no, what he said was unconscionable. Suck him again. She was fierce and feisty as well as loving and kind and always on my side. Finally, I had quit all 5 prescription drugs. I still expected to end up in that wheelchair, disabled. Instead, to my astonishment, I began to recover my health. Day by day, I got stronger. The 5 incurable diseases started to fade away or got massively better within 6 months, including the chronic exhaustion and most of the fibro pain. It was like a miracle. What I didn't know was the winds to Oz were rising and the benzos had some shocks in store. No one told me they're harder to get off than heroin, meth, speed, and alcohol combined. That the withdrawal effects make the DTs look like a walk in the park and can include clinical depression, hallucinations, suicidality, and homicidality, not to mention seizures and psychosis. Those itty-bitty teeny-weeny side effects the doctors and drug companies conveniently forgot to mention. The tornado was whirling closer. Sure, I'd escaped the benzo trap and got out of pharma prison. Little did I know I was about to be flown far, far away from everything I knew. Benzo Oz began as beautifully as Dorothy's journey. I found companions, a place full of strange magic, piratical adventures, flying monkeys, love, a fake wizard, and a wicked and wonderful witch. But there was a dark side. The very worst symptoms could happen long after you'd quit. To ride this hurricane, I'd need to reach down deep within myself and uncover, discover, and recover my own courage, heart, and brain to learn to live, love, survive, and occasionally thrive once blown to benzo Oz.